Have you ever noticed how that cool new app is always getting delayed? Or how a huge software launch just completely faceplants? We love to blame the technology, but the real story, the real reason why things go wrong, is usually hiding in plain sight. Today, we're going to crack open the world of software project management to figure out why so many projects fail, and more importantly, what we can learn to make sure they succeed. Let's dive in. All right, let's just rip the Band-Aid off right away with a cold, hard fact. Most software projects fail. I know, it sounds harsh, but study after study, year after year, the data tells the exact same story. They go way over budget, they blow past their deadlines, or they just don't do what they were supposed to do in the first place. It's this huge, incredibly expensive problem that's happening in pretty much every industry out there. And that, of course, leads to the billion-dollar question. I mean, we live in this age of unbelievable tech, right? We have brilliant engineers and tools that can do almost anything. So why is failure the norm? Why isn't it the exception? Well, here it is. This is the punchline, and it's a big one. The single biggest reason projects succeed or fail isn't the code. It's not the hardware, it's not the fancy new programming language. It's the management. It's the human side of leading the project where things almost always fall apart. And look, this isn't just a hunch. Check out this data. It comes from an analysis of a well-known model called COCOMO, which is used to predict how much effort a software project will take. And when you break down what actually causes projects to go sideways, it's not even a contest. Management-related issues don't just lead the pack, they absolutely dwarf everything else combined. The actual tech and tools, they're barely even a blip on the radar. It's pretty shocking, right? Okay, so here's where the problem really starts to take root. Think about it. How do most people become software managers? Well, they're usually really good software engineers who get a promotion. But the thing is, the skills that make you an amazing coder are fundamentally different from the skills that make you a great manager. And most of the time, these new managers are just thrown into the deep end with zero formal training. And you can see on this slide just how massive that leap really is. As an engineer, you live in a hard world of logic and certainty. The code either works or it doesn't. It's black and white. But when you become a manager, you're suddenly in a soft world full of gray areas and ambiguity. Your job completely shifts from the day-to-day tactics of writing code to the big picture strategy of juggling plants, people, and processes. It's a whole different ballgame. So if we know the problem is untrained management, what's the solution? Well, the good news is it's not some big mystery. There's actually a really solid framework for success laid out by Lawrence J. Peters in his book on this very topic. Peters' book is basically a roadmap for this new, messy, soft world. It takes the incredibly complex, often chaotic job of a project manager and organizes it into a framework that's actually clear and understandable. And this is the heart of that roadmap right here. See, effective management isn't some secret sauce. It's about mastering these 5 key things. First, you have to plan what to do. Then you figure out scheduling and costing, the how and when. After that, it's about controlling the project to make sure it stays on track, staffing it with the right mix of people, and finally, motivating that team to do their absolute best work. And I love this quote from Eisenhower because it just nails the whole idea. A plan is just a piece of paper, a snapshot in time that's probably wrong the minute you print it. But planning, that's a living, breathing process. A good manager knows things are going to change, and their job isn't to just blindly follow the original plan. No, their job is to constantly adapt, to replan as the reality on the ground changes. But here's the catch. You can master all those functions, have the best spreadsheets and charts in the world, but none of it matters if you can't handle the most complex, unpredictable variable of all, the people. Honestly, this might be the most important sentence in the entire book. We think of software as something made by machines, but it's not. It's a product of human minds, human creativity, human collaboration, and yeah, human emotion. So at its core, managing a software project is really just about managing people. And this gets to what that actually means in practice. What really motivates engineers to do great work? It's probably not what you think. And get this, money is not at the top of the list. The things that really work, the most powerful motivators, are often totally free. Things like a simple, genuine thank you, the feeling of being on a winning team, the chance to learn something new, and seeing people actually use the thing you poured your heart into. Which leads to this fascinating idea that great management is often about what you don't do. It's about avoiding these common traps, these anti-patterns that just crush team morale and kill productivity. Things like constantly second-guessing your team's technical decisions, or the classic blunder of throwing more people at a late project, which, as we all know, only makes it later. All right, so this brings us to our final and maybe the most important takeaway of all. If every project is different and every team has its own quirks, how can one single framework possibly work for everything? And the short answer is, it can't. That's the core philosophy here. Trying to force a rigid, one-size-fits-all methodology onto every single project is just a recipe for disaster. Every project has its own unique set of challenges, its own politics, its own personalities. So instead of just giving you a hammer and telling you every problem is a nail, the goal is to build a full toolkit. Those 5 functions we talked about, think of that as the tray that organizes your tools. But inside, you need a whole collection of different methods, practices that are backed by data, and techniques, other helpful practices, that you can pull out and use for the specific problem you're facing at that exact moment. I love this way of thinking about it. Your methodology, whether it's agile or waterfall or whatever, that's your map. It's a guide. But your actual project with all its real-world messiness, that's the terrain. And a smart manager, a great leader knows that when the map and the terrain don't line up, you always trust the terrain. You have to adapt. So at the end of the day, that journey from being a great engineer to being an effective manager isn't about finding one single right answer for everything. It's about learning to ask the right questions. It's about building up that toolkit so you have the wisdom to know which tool to pull out to solve the problem right in front of you. The question really stops being, what should I do? And becomes, which approach is right for this moment? So the real question is, are you ready to start building?